This is a video for the American brownies. The first thing you need to start off with is a brownie tray. You need to grease all of this, so from the trolley using the brushes, go around all the edges and the bottom. Then we're going to line our tins. This is going to make it easy for your brownies to come out. If you don't line it, your brownies are going to be all stuck in the tin. It's going to be pretty impossible to get them out. So you need a square that's just a bit bigger than your tin, and then you're going to push it down and put it into all of the corners. Okay. As you can see though, it doesn't really fit very well, it's quite folded. So what we need to do is we now need to go into these corners with the scissors and cut right down into that very far corner. We're going to cut it down all the way into that corner. And then you'll see it magically starts to unfold itself. You need to do this into all of the corners, right down to the very bottom. And as you can see, that grease is helping that paper stick in there. If you don't have a grease, often the paper will just kind of fall out really. So you can see now it's starting to sit really nicely. So do all of those four corners, and that's how you line your tin. Okay, and your mixture will go in there, and then we'll then put that in the oven, and then you can just lift it out when it's done. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be melting some chocolate and butter together. Now, when you melt chocolate, you can't just chuck it in a microwave or chuck it in a saucepan because it's very delicate. So we need to do something called bain-marie, which is where we're gently melting the butter and the chocolate together over steam. So you need to fill up a saucepan about a quarter full with hot water from the tap. We're then going to rest this metal bowl on top of the saucepan, and the steam is going to melt the chocolate. You don't want the water to be touching the bowl, you just want the steam to be melting it. Now, you only need 175 grams out of all of your chocolate in here. You need to leave 50 grams on the side, which we're going to chop into chunks. Okay, so 50 grams is going to be in chunks. So you're just going to use a knife, crunch that all up. It doesn't matter if the sizes aren't the same, because that's going to be melting in your brownie mix anyway. So 50 grams on there, then 175 grams and your butter into the pan. So we're now going to put it onto the heat. As you can see, there's lots of steam coming up. Make sure there's not too much steam. If there's steam billowing out at the edges, it's too hot and you're going to end up burning yourself. You need to keep stirring it until it goes all melted and it goes really glossy. Don't leave it because it can easily burn, and if you heat it up too much, it's going to burn. So keep stirring it with your spatulas or a spoon. Try and get the butter down to the bottom because you want the butter to melt the same time as the chocolate. The chocolate will melt quicker, so we want to try and keep that butter down on the bottom. Keep going around the edges as well, and you can see that's melting really quickly. Of course, this bowl might get hot, so please be careful and make sure the heat is not on too high because you don't want to end up burning yourself. You can see it's starting to almost be melted. Okay, so just keep stirring it. Keep making sure it hasn't stuck to the bottom, getting that butter down to the bottom. Go all around the edges. Make sure that edges don't burn as well. If the steam is billowing out, turn down the heat. You can see this is nearly done out. It's gone really super glossy. The reason we're using dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate is because there's quite a lot of sugar that goes into brownies. So you won't even know, you might go, oh, I don't like dark chocolate. You actually won't be able to taste the bitterness of the dark chocolate because the sugar is going to balance it out. And milk chocolate tends to curdle and not work very well. It goes quite lumpy. So this is why we're using dark chocolate, because it can cope with heat a little bit better. There we go. So this is beautifully smooth and glossy now. There's no lumps left in that. So we can take that off the heat. We don't want to leave it on the heat. Be careful when you take it off because the steam will come out. And just leave that on the side. It's all melted. Check it's all melted. Give it a last stir. And now we're going to prepare our eggs and sugar. So in a bowl we're going to put 4 eggs and your caster sugar. We're then going to use the electric whisks to whisk this until it's doubled in size and is really thick and foamy. So remember, the 2 prongs need to go in there. Make sure they're the same size. Make sure you haven't got one that's bigger than the other. Gently pull them, make sure they're not going to fall out. Make sure the wire is not going over the hob, please, because if that wire melts, the whisk is going to be broken, isn't it? So don't forget, this button on top is what ejects the 2 prongs, and this is your speed button. So you need to put it down first, and then you're going to turn it on. Don't put it on when it's in the air, because as soon as it hits the liquid, it's going to fly eggs everywhere. So put it down, then turn it on. Start slowly and then go all the way up to full speed. Now you want to get as much air as you can here, so you don't want to stand here and not move it. You need to really work that electric whisk. Okay, keep working it, get as much air in it as you can. And we're looking for it to go really pale and to have doubled in size. So you can see all the air bubbles, that's us putting the air into the mixture. Starting to go a lighter colour. Keep working it. The way to check if it's done is you need to lift your whisk ups and the mixture should sit on top of the rest of the mixture. You can see here that's still not done, that's sinking straight back in, so it needs a few more minutes. We'll have another check. You can see how light and pale and fluffy that's gone. That's nearly sitting on top. Okay, that looks ready now. So you can see it's doubled in size, and when you lift your whisks up, the mixture is sitting on top just for a couple of seconds. It doesn't stay there for long, but it's sitting on top just for a couple of seconds. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to incorporate our chocolate and butter into our fluffy eggs and sugar. So we're going to fold this in, so we're going to not just pour it in and then use the electric whisk, we need to be quite careful with it to make sure we don't lose any of the air out of those brownies. So we're going to just carefully pour it in down the side. Make sure you get all of that chocolate out as much as you possibly can. And then you'll see it's all sunk to the bottom. So what we need to do is we need to go get our spoons and go right down to the bottom and lift it up there. So when you're folding, it's a bit like a circular motion. So you're going right down to the bottom and you're lifting it over. You can move your bowl around as well to make sure you get it all incorporated. So we're going to keep going until it's all roughly the same colour. Okay, so as you see, it's all down the bottom, so we need to bring it up from underneath, bring it up to the top. Okay, keep going until it's mostly mixed in. Okay. You will still have darker areas and areas where it's white or yellow, that's fine. Okay, so that's mostly incorporated now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sieve in our flour and cocoa powder. So I've got this in a bowl, we're just going to place it all in a sieve together, and then we're going to gently sieve this in. Sieving it in gets more air into the mixture. Tap the sieve against your hand, not the other way around, because if you hit the sieve, it's going to fly everywhere. So get all of that in there. If there's any lumps left afterwards, don't tip them in, just to get rid of them. And again, we're going to fold this in now, so we're going to go from underneath and over the top. Underneath, over the top. Keep moving it round, and we're going to keep checking to make sure there's no pockets of flour left. This will take quite a few minutes. So we're just folding it over, making that circular motion. Okay, you can see it's slowly being incorporated. Keep spinning your bowl round. And suddenly you'll start to notice that there's actually more cake mix that you can see than flour. Okay, don't be tempted at this point to rush it and whisk it, because all of that air that you've put in to start with is going to be lost. Okay, so we're nearly there now. You can see it's got that really dark, rich colour, but you want to just go around once more and check there's no pockets of flour that have been left anywhere. Okay, so you can see now it's all the same colour. Get everything down from around the edges. Okay. There we go, so it's all the same colour, there's no white bits of flour coming up now. So now we're going to put in our chocolate chunks into there, and again we're just going to gently fold those in. We don't need to worry about mixing them in too much because they'll get mixed in when we pour it into our tin. Then we're going to pour that into our tins then. Spread it all out because you don't really want to touch it once it's gone into the tin. Okay, get out as much as you can, make sure it's all even. Okay, and those chocolate chunks are going to melt as we do that. Okay, we're then going to put that in the oven at 180 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. I've got one I started earlier. What you're looking for when it's done. Brownies, you can't stick a knife in them like you can a carrot cake, for example, because they're a very gooey, sticky mixture. So if you put a knife in to check if it was cooked, it would come out quite dirty. So what you're looking for, it should gently wobble when you take it out of the oven. It shouldn't move around, slosh around. If it's sloshing and lots of movement, it needs longer. What you're looking for is this lovely crack around the edges. Okay, the middle will have risen up and there'll be a nice crack around the edges, and it will just gently move.